Today I'm analyzing the revenue sharing formula of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. In particular, I'm analyzing the tax reform bill that has been sent by the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria to the National Assembly for amendment. Recall that upon coming into power, the President has sent an executive bill to the National Assembly where 4 acts have been amended. 4 acts of the Federal Republic of Nigeria relating to tax have been amended. And ever since this bill was sent to the National Assembly, it has created so much controversy. And today, I'm giving a breakdown of the content of this bill, the summary of the content of this bill. But before we make the breakdown of the content of this bill, let us look at what is currently applicable. What is it that the President wants to be amended, right? So we go to the current VAT sharing formula of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. VAT simply means value added tax. You all know that. The current sharing formula is 20% based on derivation. What does that mean? That means Kebbi State brings 1 billion naira only at the end of the month from VAT collection. Sokoto brings 1 billion naira only. Lagos brings 300 billion naira. Delta State brings 200 billion naira. Akwa Ibom State brings 200 billion naira. Rivers brings 250 billion naira. Katsina brings maybe 500 million naira. Kano brings as much as 100 billion naira. And everybody brings their own like that into these baskets that is owned by the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Now, by this sharing formula, whatever you bring, even if you brought the biggest VAT collected per month, what you get is 20% based on derivation. That means if you brought, let's say, 100 billion naira, you'll be paid 20% of this, which will be 20 billion naira. The rest will be shared to others. Now, the 50% of the 100, okay, we have discussed 20%. 50% is to be shared based on equality. This is what is applicable as of today, right? It therefore means that whatever you bring to these baskets, right? Delta brings as much as 200 billion, Lagos brings as much as 300 billion, Akwa Ibom brings as much as 200 billion, Rivers brings as much as 250 billion, Kebbi brings only 1 billion, Sokoto brings only 1 billion, Katsina brings only 1 billion, and everybody brings like that into this basket that is owned by the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Whatever you bring, 50% of it, when all this is added together, 50% of it is shared across board to all the states of the Federation equally, right? That is why it is called based on equality. The next sharing formula is 30% based on population. So that means the higher your population, you'll be entitled to 30% of the sharing formula. So that means a state like Kano is certainly going to get more based on population. Sokoto will get more based on population. And Lagos State is going to get more based on population. And the percentage, the sharing formula is 30%. So when you add 20 plus 50 plus 30, what you have is 100%. And this is the sharing formula that is currently applicable in Nigeria as at 2025. And this is what the President came to see upon taking over the reins of office. Now, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is not comfortable with this sharing formula. He's not comfortable with it. And that is why he has forwarded an executive bill to the National Assembly called Tax Reform Bill for amendment of the applicable situation in Nigeria. He wants us to have something different. And that is why he has sent his own proposal to the National Assembly. And what's the President's proposal, right? What is in this bill? What's the content of this bill? Here is it. The President is proposing 60% based on derivation. Recall that what the President has met on ground is 20% based on derivation. So perhaps the President is saying, how can you bring so much into the national basket and take only 20% based on derivation? For that reason, the president has proposed 60% based on derivation. This is what is in this bill. The president has also proposed 20% based on equality. So the president is basically saying, how can you share 50% of what is brought to the national table equally, whereas some persons brought in as little as 1 billion naira, others brought in as much as 300 billion naira. So the president wishes to change the current sharing formula of 50% based on equality and then have 20% based on equality. So that means whatever everybody brings to the table, 20% is what is to be shared across board. That is the president's proposal. The president also says 20% of these should be based on population, right? Recall that what the president has met on ground regarding equality is 50%. And the president doesn't want it to continue this way. And that is why he has now proposed 20% only to be shared based on equality. The president has also proposed 20% based on population. Recall that what the president has seen on ground, has met on ground, is 30% based on population. So the president is now saying, no, we cannot continue to share 30% based on population. Perhaps because some states in the federation have population that is far and higher than others and are sitting to get 30% based on population. So the president has proposed 20%, reduce 10 and then make it 20%. That is what is in the tax reform bill that is before the National Assembly, still awaiting effective amendment and passage into law. Recall that following the controversy that trailed the presentation of this bill before the National Assembly, the president then said that the committee can dialogue with the governors. He gave the committee the mandate to dialogue with the governors of the 36 states of the Federation of Nigeria. And you know how powerful the governors are. If you are familiar with what's going on in Nigeria, the happenings in Nigeria, you will agree with me that the governors are a very powerful bloc in Nigeria. You can't wish them away. You just cannot wish them away. After all, governors control so much population across the states of Nigeria. And they matter very well during national discourse. So the governors met. They gave their own proposal. Governors from the north meeting with governors of the south. They've given their own proposal. And what's the governor's proposal? They have proposed 30% to be shared based on derivation. We go back to what is currently applicable. What is applicable is 20% based on derivation. The governors are saying, no, we're not satisfied with this. We need 30% based on derivation. Recall that the president's own proposal is 60% based on derivation. The governors are saying, no, Your Excellency, we need 30% based on derivation, not your 60%. The governors have also proposed 50% equality. We come back to what is applicable. This is what is also applicable, 50% equality. That means whatever you bring to the national basket, everybody will be entitled to 50% of everything that has been brought to the national basket as regards the payment of tax. So the governors are saying 50% is what we propose. The governors are also proposing 20% to be paid based on population. That means if you are from Kano, Lagos, River State, 20%, your population is much, 20% of what is generated will be shared to you. This is the only point that the governors have agreed with the president, right? The president is proposing 20% based on population. The governors are also proposing 20% based on population. On every other aspect of the sharing formula, the governors are in total disagreement with the president, but they have agreed with the president as regards the payment of 20% based on derivation. What is currently applicable is 30% based on derivation. So the governors and the president, they are okay with the review of the percentage to be paid on population, and are saying 20%. Now, what do you think is the best sharing formula between what is currently applicable and what the president has proposed in the tax reform bill and what the governors have proposed? Which one do you think is going to stand at the end of the day? Which one do you think the National Assembly will most likely, pass into law? I asked the question, what is my own personal proposal about the sharing formula? As a Nigerian citizen, what do I think is the best sharing formula? That takes me to the regional era. When you go back to regional Nigeria, history has it that whatever was generated in the 4 regions, remember we had the northern region, we had the western region, we had the midwestern region, and we had the eastern region. History has it that whatever was generated in each of the 4 regions, they kept behind 50% and sent 50% to the government at the center. It was from here that Chief Obafemi Awolowo was able to construct the many infrastructure that he did in the western region of Nigeria. University of Ile-Ife, the Cocoa House, the radio house, the television house, the many roads in the western region of Nigeria, and so on. It was also from here that Sir Ahmadu Bello was able to do what he did in the northern region of Nigeria. Michael Okpara and those before him was able to do what he did in the eastern region of Nigeria. And Dennis Osadebe was able to do what he did in the midwestern region of Nigeria from the 50% that the regions were entitled to keep and use for development. 50% was paid to the government at the center. Now, what was the benefit of this sharing formula? Everybody was hardworking. Every region needed to produce something. Every region needed to generate revenue to be able to keep behind 50% and pay 50% to the government of the center. Now, I'm thinking that if this is revisited in Nigeria, everybody in the entire Federation of Nigeria will sit up, be active. Nobody will just be folding his or her own arms to wait for what's going to come, like windfall from the federal, pause here. Everybody will certainly be active. What's your own sharing formula? Do you think that the current sharing formula is equitable, it's fair, and something that Nigeria should keep? Do you think that the proposal by the president is more equitable and fair? Do you think that the proposal by the governors is more equitable? Do you think that my own proposal of 50-50, as was done in regional Nigeria, is the best that should happen to Nigeria at this moment? Drop your suggestion in the comment section so that together we can pick it up and then continue the discussion until we exhaust all the issues as regards the VAT sharing formula in Nigeria. Many thanks. If you have not yet subscribed, ensure that you click the subscription button so that together we can have a larger forum where we sit down to discuss everyday happenings in the country. Many thanks.